So it's been a while since I've done kind of a Bolero comparison video on signature mouthpieces, and I happen to have 9 signature mouthpieces that I haven't played yet on Bolero, kind of ready to go as like a little comparison and a little update to the series. Let me quickly introduce each one of them, talk a little bit about them, and then we're just going to try to play Bolero 9 times. First up, we have the Yamaha Alan Trudel model. Alain Trudel's Canadian soloist and virtuoso who also conducts a lot these days. We're going to kind of go from small to large. This is one of the smallest rim diameters, kind of the equivalent of like a 6.5 in Bach terms, but it's a very deep cut. We'll see how that sounds in a second. Then we have one of Christian Lindberg's mouthpieces. You can kind of tell from the shape. There's nothing else on it, and there's nothing else like it on the market really. This is his 4CL. Again, it's kind of a narrower rim, but this one's a little bit shallower. After that, we'll have kind of a chonky one. This is a Laskey Rayano 56IB, the Iberian model, made for David Rejano, principal trombone of the LA Philharmonic, and a fantastic solo player as well. This is supposed to have a 25.6 like diameter of the rim. It always feels a little bit small to me, but it's heavy. Like the cup is fairly chonky, to put it, lack of a better term. If you compare it to the Trudel, you can kind of see like how big the cup is and how much extra mass is like on this little band here. Then we have 2 mouthpieces from the Verus line. These are John Sebastian Verus signature mouthpieces that he sells through Houghton Horns. We have the JSV1, the JSV2. The only difference is the JSV2 is a little heavier. Sometimes in the past I've said that it's deeper. It's not deeper, it just has a deeper feel to it. They're the same size except for the extra mass on the two. And I want to make sure I'm really clear about that and get that one right. Then we have the Ultimate Brass Higgins model, Tim Higgins, the new principal trombone of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. It feels a lot like a 5G size, 5G weight. There's just a couple of extra little things to it that give it its kind of its own feel compared to like a Greg Black, which this reminds me of. We also have the Griego Lang, Lang with an E, not like my Lang, but Lang plus E, which is Steve Lang's signature mouthpiece that he has with Griego. This looks a lot like the Jim Markey bass mouthpiece, just scaled for tenor. They're very, very, very similar. And since they play in the same orchestra and they blend super well, Stephen Lang plays second in Boston. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. This is the Lang 4.5. Now, I've had a few different Alessi mouthpieces on the Bolero tests. I believe we've had the Laskey 55 Symphony, the 60 Symphony. We've also had the Griego 1D and the Griego 7F. This is the Griego Alessie 5F. A little bit different. Figured give it a try. And finally, we have the Picket Co number 4 for Ko-Ichiro Yamamoto. This is a big, another chonky mouthpiece. Even compared to the Rejano, it's a little thicker. And then when you compare it to our first mouthpiece, the Trudel, you can really start to see like a big difference in mass and size. So we're going to kind of work from smallish to largest. I don't have the exact measurements of everything, and nor do I particularly care, except for the broad outlines of them. So let's give it a try. We're going to do Bolero on these 9 mouthpieces. And just to keep everybody updated on where we're at, we're going to start with the Alan Trudel Yamaha mouthpiece. Yeah. So, feels very bright, feels very exciting. Given the confines of the rim, it's feels very natural and interesting to do vibrato with this mouthpiece. I like that about it. Next, we'll move on to the Lindberg, the 4CL mouthpiece. Now, Christian spent a couple times when he was younger playing with orchestras, like a touring orchestra, and I believe an Royal Opera Orchestra in Stockholm. But very quickly, he kind of left to develop his own career as a soloist. And throughout that career as a soloist, he developed this mouthpiece in terms of efficiency and excitement and kind of power of sound. I'm not much of an airspeed person on mouthpieces, but for this one in particular, I really want to remember to try to do fast air through it to make sure that the notes engage with where I want them. So I'm going to try to put myself in Christian's mindset a little bit, and let's see how Bolero goes. Yeah, it's always really fascinating playing this mouthpiece. It is unlike any other one that I've ever played in the world. Um, yeah, remembering to relax and open up in the low register in order to meet where it wants to be for that type of resistance it's tricky to do in the moment without having some extended time with it. But it is very, very, very brilliant. If I ever just need to pop out some high notes with like a ton of power and a really compressed, exciting sound, I know where I want to be with that. Next, we have the Laskey Rayano, the 56IB. There's 3 models of his mouthpiece. This is the Iberian one. I'd have to look it up, but I believe there's the Iberian, the Cosmos, and there's one other, the Apollo. There it is. They all have slightly different characteristics to them. The IB, I believe, is like the all-arounder / orchestral mouthpiece, though. I'm trying to remember a lot off the top of my head with that. But let's see what David Rejano's mouthpiece feels like. Just need a second to get reused to playing on the Lindberg mouthpiece to other mouthpieces. Now let's give Bolero a shot. Really colorful, really fun, really flexible, and really colorful to play on. I like that. That was a very interesting experience. I felt myself really kind of settling into the music on that one in a nice way. Next, we have the JSV1. These are some of my favorite like universal mouthpieces. Like if you don't know where to start on a mouthpiece journey, the JSV1 or the JSV2, I think, use one that's super hard to go wrong with for almost anybody with any type of chops. It's cool that there's like such a universal mouthpiece on the market. I haven't run into another one that's quite as like plug and play, if that makes any sense, in a very positive way like these. But let's give it its Bolero test. Nice mouthpiece. Then we have the JSV2, which again is not deeper, but just a little bit heavier. Same mouthpiece, same blank, just a little bit more mass in this area. You can kind of feel the difference of weight by, oh, I don't know, a couple of grams, but it is noticeable. So the idea behind more mass is it should be able to like give a darker sound. I never actually know what darker and lighter mean when it comes to sound. It really seems like it depends on the listener. But generally, lighter mouthpieces seem to react a little quicker. Heavy mouthpieces seem to give a little bit more tone, is what most people say. Let's see just how kind of true that is and see how these mouthpieces sound back to back. Yeah, I found myself being so kind of intrigued by the differences between them and the sounds that I was getting that I really wanted to push those D flats and see just how far back I could come dynamically. So I took a little bit of a risk there with it, and that risk didn't work out, but it's not the mouthpiece's fault. It was because I was having a lot of fun with it, and I just like trying new things. Next, we have the Ultimate Brass Higgins Symphony. This one is called. Yeah. This is a very, I don't want to say middle of the road, but it's very much in that 4.5 to 5G range. Especially, it reminds me a lot of a Greg Black model, but with Ultimate Brass's special, like, zhuzh on it. So let's give the Higgins mouthpiece a tryout on this. As we're getting into the slightly bigger mouthpieces, we're definitely going to need a little bit more air down low to get the most out of these mouthpieces. Fun mouthpiece. Very well designed, very balanced. I feel like it has a lot of classic, big but not too big orchestral qualities in it. Very rich sound. Following that up with the Griego Lang 4.5. I believe out of this is the only one from like a dedicated second trombone chair, but Steve can play anything. And it's always kind of funny. I specifically think that second trombone is where you find like the best musicians in the orchestra kind of throughout. I think it's a super cool role to play, and people who really are masters at second trombone playing like Steve, their musical IQ is usually through the roof. Sections don't sound good without a great second. It's kind of an invisible role, but it is so important and so hard to do well. Let's see how it sounds in, across all the registers. nice, fun to play on. Well, all of them have been for different reasons. That's part of the joy of trying out different mouthpieces. To just get these little windows into different people's views of how to play trombone. And one of the windows I've been looking through the longest has been Joe Alessi's. Some of the first solo CDs I heard were from Alessi and Lindberg, which, is pretty commonplace for the trombone world. But Joe's being from Long Island and having him be principal in New York, that was always like the sound in my undergrad. That was like the ideal. How do you play with that much tone and that much beauty on a consistent basis? Yeah, so for a long time I've gravitated towards Alessi style mouthpieces with that in mind. Just having that like heroic sound world as my concept from a young age. Yep, I've had a chance to try out 4 of his other mouthpieces on these videos, I believe. I don't know if they're all up for Bolero, but they're all on different videos. And they're always a treat to play on. Let's try the 5F. Always feels a little bit like coming home when I play on one of Joe's styles of mouthpieces. Oh well, we're at our last one already. Feels like it's gone by quickly. Ko-Ichiro Yamamoto used to be Joe's student, and if there was one person who really took Joe's tone and kind of just like somehow cranked it up even more, it was probably Ko-Ichiro. The biggest, most beautiful sound I think I've ever heard on trombone recordings, just in terms of like sheer amount and width and roundness, was probably on Ko-Ichiro's Proof CD, where he recorded the Schulich and some other lovely works. Very, very, very impressive player. He was in the Metropolitan Opera for a minute and is now principal in Seattle. And yeah, just has tone for days. It's really fun. So let's see if we can access at least a little bit of it on his mouthpiece. All right, so there you have it. Bolero, 9 different mouthpieces. For myself, I feel like something in the medium, large range. Between the Higgins, Lang, and Alessi seems to be my sweet spot in terms of comfort. Um, some of these mouthpieces, like the Verus 1, the Rejano, and the Trudel, have a super exciting, brilliant quality to them that feels like it's like more of a classical pre 2000s trombone sound from like the old recordings and stuff like that. Yeah. For whatever reason though, they're all super fun to play on, and it's just a matter of finding what works for you. No one mouthpiece will let you play Bolero or really make it any easier. But when you start to dial in the sound concepts that you like, you get to start to choose between all these wonderful options for different reasons, different colors, different moods even. All right, so that was an exploration of 9 signature mouthpieces on Bolero. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're having a okay start to your 2026. Thanks.